Hi there. Today I wanted to share with you guys how to avoid becoming a bridezilla, even during a pandemic. And sometimes, even though we are trying really hard to keep it all together, do all the things, it gets to a point where we just can't take it anymore and we explode on the first person that says the wrong thing. And then the person that you say that to is like, oh my gosh, you're a bridezilla. Your behavior is insane. It's not really that you're a bridezilla. It's that you were holding your emotions in, and that's not a good thing to do. So, the first thing that I want to remind you of is that you are not your wedding. I'm going to say it again. You are not your wedding. The changes that are being made, the things that are happening, they are an event. They are not you. So you are separate from the thing that is your wedding and what your wedding has become and the changes that have happened. You are still separate from that. And the important thing to remember when you're thinking about how you're a separate entity from your wedding is to focus on what you want instead of what you don't want. So often we have a tendency to run these stories in our heads about what we don't want to have happen. I don't know if you guys visualize at all, but it's really easy to visualize what, like, the worst case scenario. At least that's how it used to be for me. And when I got practiced at visualizing what I actually wanted to happen, a lot of things shifted. And so I'm not saying that you have to visualize, although I do recommend it, but just start to recognize when you are visualizing a story about what you want, what you don't want. So if you're saying what ifs, if you have like these fears of what might happen, none of that is actually taking place. So I believe there's a Mark Twain quote that goes something like, I can't remember what the quote is. I don't want to butcher it, but it says something kind of like, there's all these things that I've worried about in my life that never actually even happened. So we spend a lot of time worrying, and it's really pointless because we don't know what's going to happen. And you might as well focus on what you want and feel good about it instead of focusing on what you don't want. And then if something that you don't want to have happen comes along, you're in a better place energetically to handle it. So what you want to start to do is to tell yourself a new story. If you've been feeling down about rescheduling, that's totally normal, but you want to at some point start to move forward with how to feel, with feeling better. You want to get those emotions out and move on so that you can go back to living your life and know that, things have changed and you're just going to kind of roll with the punches. And so what do you want to have happen? Do you still want to have a dream wedding, even though it might look a little different than what you imagined? Do you want to just get married and not worry about the wedding and just go live your epic love story? What do you want? And it's important to also have a conversation with your future spouse about what the two of you want together, because while you're engaged is a great time to be dreaming about how you want your life to look, and you don't have to live by anyone else's rules. So one thing, an easy analogy for holding down emotions that is a good illustration is when you're holding a beach ball underwater. It's really hard to do that. It's really hard to hold a beach ball underwater, and you start to move and shake, and then eventually it pops up in your face, and it's just this big explosion. And that's what happens when you hold your emotions down. When you get angry and you don't express your anger, when you're sad and you don't let it out, eventually it's going to surface and it's going to come out whether you wanted it to or not. And when that happens, it's never at a convenient time. Never at a convenient time. So that's something to remember, that when you're holding those emotions down, you're not fooling anyone. They're still there. You're just pretending that they're not there, and they're still having an effect on you. So you just want to make sure that you let them out. And there's all sorts of different ways to let them out. In fact, I talk a lot about that in my workshop at blissfullyengaged.com, all these different ways that you can actually let them out in a healthy way that feels really good for yourself and is part of a self-care routine. So, and honestly, emotions are not, they're not actually good or bad. You know, if you're feeling sad, that's not a bad emotion. If you're feeling happy, it's not necessarily a good emotion. Your emotions are just feedback about how you're feeling. And when you break it down like that, it makes it a little bit easier to understand that we need all of the emotions. We wouldn't have those emotions if we didn't need all of them. They're all a necessary part of life because we're not going to be happy all the time. It just doesn't work that way. And so you have to just allow that to sink in and just know that you're going to have ups and downs. There's an ebb and flow to life. It's not all just this upward trajectory. There's ups and downs, and there's going to be ups and downs in your relationship too. So this is great practice. And even though there are ups and downs, your inner world doesn't have to reflect what's going on in your outer world. You have control over your own feelings and your own thoughts. And it takes some practice, but you do have control over those things. You may have some habits in place now where you are reacting versus responding, but ultimately you do have a choice of how to react, how to respond. And the word responsibility, when you break it apart, is response ability, which is your ability to respond. And so as you practice and get better at taking a step back, taking a few deep breaths, waiting to respond instead of react, you'll end up having more control over those thoughts and over those emotions. And you'll be able to come at things with a better energy, whether they're good or bad, because you don't have a choice in the way things go necessarily, but you have a choice in how you behave. And so there's a lot of different ways, like I said, to release emotions, and it's really important to do that. And so if you are wondering on how to do that, you can always go to blissfullyengaged.com and check that out. And you'll learn some really, honestly, simple and fast ways to let your emotions out. And they're habitual. So the more you do them, the better it gets. And I'll just give you one right now. It's meditation. Meditation over the long term can be really, really beneficial. And when you first start, just so you know, don't expect for your mind to just go blank. That actually doesn't happen very often, even for people who are very practiced at meditating. It's just, and that's what it is. It's a practice. So you sit down, you close your eyes, you can listen to music, you can not listen to music, you can listen to a guided meditation, no words. Really, it's totally up to you how you want to do it. You can sit, you can lie down. I personally cannot lie down because I will fall asleep immediately. But the point is to stop and take some time for yourself, get centered and grounded, and then you can move on about your day with a better energy, and you can avoid that bridezilla status because you won't be holding the beach ball underwater anymore. You'll be keeping an even keel and, just being able to take care of whatever comes at you. So if you have any questions, let me know, and I will see you next time. Bye.